Well, I think that we are all expecting that we will conclude, Europe at least will conclude, in terms of accepting among themselves which agreement it will be, whether it's a mixed agreement or just a Europe only. But I believe that that one is already now set. I think it seems going to be a mixed agreement. And then if that is, then we're going to make those changes that are necessary to the agreement and then have things set so that then after that we can set for the date of signature of the agreement. I think that we have to have a signing ceremony that will engage or involve as many heads of states from our region. The OACPS member states have proposed that this becomes the Samoa Agreement. We are expecting that there will be a proposal from the European side. We don't know how it will be, but I think that what's important is that we have a ceremony that embraces and includes at senior level presidents, the heads of the European Union Commission and the OACPS member states. So that's what we expect, and we do hope that that takes place in the next few months. So we are very much anticipating that. We want it to take place.
The second question is about the climate change and migration. Obviously, this is the topic. We realize that climate change affects everyone, and it's very important to strengthen the local capacities to deal with these consequences. So what would be, in your view, the most effective way to address the migration issues?
Well, migration is indeed a very big challenge. First is that some of the migrants are coming from regions that are faced with climate challenges. Some of them come from areas faced with drought and conflict. And therefore, I think that while these aspects are important to take into account, I also think that as far as migration is concerned, there are also many of our partners who face a lot of challenges as far as migration is concerned, because these people will then come into countries or areas where they do not have enough resources, or there are already many other displaced people or many other migrants, and therefore I believe that it is important to invest in certain areas to stabilize the areas in terms of peace so that there is no more conflict, particularly the Sahelian region, but also to invest in areas that will make it possible to have more water and probably to create jobs in those areas so that migration does not become one of the only viable ways of solving the situation that communities are faced in those regions. I think we also need to invest in finding water, bringing water to those regions or communities, and invest in projects that will stabilize populations so that they don't find migration as the only way to solve their own economic situations.
And the third issue, of course, is COVID-19. It has contrasted clearly the many inequalities in the world. So how do you think would be the best way to shape the future cooperation with ACP countries, with European Union, of course, and especially having in mind Slovenian capacities, although smaller than of bigger and stronger countries in Europe?
Well, I think that as far as the COVID information, how can we look into the future? It will be very important, first of all, that we share information, we share experiences, we handle this issue in a way that is extremely open. Then once we share information, it's also important to share then the solutions, because in some cases we have lacked medications or medicines to respond to the crisis itself. Many of the member states in the OACP countries did not receive vaccines on time. Some have not yet received, while in the northern countries in Europe, most countries have already been vaccinated. Now, why is it that information is important? It's that sometimes information was not shared in the sense of knowing the truth about the pandemic. In some countries, and many countries, even in the north, did not believe that the pandemic was real. So while the governments were telling to make sure that we control ourselves, we do lockdowns, others were doing the opposite side thing. And that means they did not tell people to lock down, they did not tell people to protect themselves, and therefore the impact has been very negative on a number of countries.
Are you talking, about European countries, but probably also about African countries?
Exactly
the response in African countries
yes.
was different.
Yes, exactly. It was very different. You had those who took measures, those who did not take measures, and you know that there are even heads of state who died of the COVID pandemic. So there is the COVAX initiative, and there is also the fact that African countries like South Africa have been allowed to produce vaccines so that they can produce for a larger number of countries on the African continent. But indeed it is true that globally the developing countries in my regions, they still face challenges in getting the medicines. Some countries have been contributing by sending part of their medications to our countries, but I think that what's important is that the world should prepare itself better, and I believe that at the level of the World Health Organization as well, there should be a better coordination when you have a pandemic like this one.